Joining me now is the former Arkansas governor and candidate for the Oval Office in 2024, Asa Hutchinson. Thanks so much for making the time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's great to be with you for a little bit today.
Of course. So let's just start out. Many people have been claiming recently that the Republican Party has become the party of the former president, of Donald Trump, with limited room in the party for people who perhaps don't share his viewpoint. I mean, we saw in the midterm elections that a lot of the people who were elected officials who openly went against former President Trump, people like Liz Cheney, for example, were primaried by a Trump-endorsed candidate, and then they ultimately ended up losing in the campaign. So how can someone like yourself, the other candidates in the GOP field in 2024, overcome some of those barriers and obstacles that you may face?
Well, you just have to get out there and you have to present your ideas and work hard. This is important. This campaign is not just about the future of America. It's also about the soul of the Republican Party. And I don't believe that Donald Trump defines the party or should define it for the future. I believe we have a coarseness in American politics that's not the best. And I think that we need to have consistent conservative policies, but also in a way that tries to bring out the best of America and try to bring people together. So that's what leadership is about. We'll see. This is a test as to whether the Republican Party wants to follow that direction or whether they want to look to the past. But for me, it's about the future and it's about ideas. It's about solutions.
And former President Trump, obviously, last month was indicted by the Manhattan grand jury. A lot of people, and not just people, are claiming, but the uptick in the amount of campaign donations that his campaign has been receiving suggests that the indictment by the Manhattan grand jury helped his campaign in a number of aspects. It raised his number amongst many Republicans in the polls. So why, from your perspective, is it that a lot of Republicans and a lot of people that are kind of at his core base have become more loyal to the former president because of this indictment? And how can you kind of turn some of those people around to, come out and support people such as yourself?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. He received an uptick in donations and in polling support as a result of the indictment. And the reason is that no one in America likes to see someone treated unfairly or what they perceive as being picked on. And that's exactly the perception of the indictment coming out of New York. I've criticized it myself. And so I think that's the reason for it. We've got 3 different investigations ongoing. You've got a civil trial in New York. So there's always going to be controversy surrounding Donald Trump. That's going to go up and down. I think that we need a little bit more steady leadership. I don't believe that all of the controversies that surround Donald Trump is helpful to get the ideas out that solve problems for Americans. And so I think you're going to see the polls go down, but that'll be some external factors that I can't control. I can control what I see as solutions for America.
And former President Trump has expressed limited interest in attending some of the first Republican primary debates that are going to be held. Looking at some of the issues, though, that will be and that have already been discussed throughout this primary and going into the actual presidential election itself, not just with Donald Trump, but with some of your other primary opponents, such as Nikki Haley. There's a small businessman, Vivek Ramaswamy, who's running. What are some of the key issues? I know you've been talking a lot about the southern border, which we can get into in a moment, that you would like to ultimately bring up on a debate stage, on the campaign trail, etc.
Well, a number of new ideas. First of all, I've proposed that we ought to reduce federal civilian employment by 10%. That's a lot. I can do it because as governor of Arkansas, I reduced state employment by 14%. And that's important to control spending at the federal level. Secondly, it's important to put people back to work, to concentrate on worker training. It's also, I want to remove the penalty for those over 62 to get Social Security and work. Let's stop penalizing them for working. We need to compete with China. And to do that in technology, I want to enhance computer science education all across America in our high schools and focus our colleges, increase the number of engineers that we produce in America. So these are just a couple of ideas besides the border, besides having a consistent pro-growth energy policy. These are all things that are important for the future that I'll be talking about on the debate stage.
And looking at, I know you just recently were talking on Twitter too. You posted a tweet talking about the issues at the southern border. You believe President Biden has not taken adequate action on that front. A lot of Republicans are frustrated at the level of action, or as Republicans claim, inaction that has been taken by Joe Biden. But a lot of Democrats are also frustrated at Republican governors, for example, like Greg Abbott, as an example, the Texas governor. And there's other people who are just frustrated in general that people like Joe Biden, people like Greg Abbott, for example, aren't willing to work as collaboratively as perhaps they should be to try and develop some solutions. How could you, as president, from your perspective, perhaps work with some of those key counterparts, governors that govern states alongside the southern border, to try and develop some solutions on the southern border?
Well, great question. And the answer is that I've already done that. While I was head of border security during the Bush administration, we worked with the Arizona officials and law enforcement in Texas and really enhanced the security by working together, sharing intelligence, but also sharing personnel. Now, we didn't get it perfect then, but what Joe Biden has done is basically said, we're open in the border, and he's not been able to reverse that trend that he started when he first got elected. We do need to have an effort to go after the cartels in Mexico as a part of the strategy. The Mexican government has empowered the cartel by not enforcing the law against them, and we're going to have to push Mexico to help us with the cartel, because they're the ones that are causing a great deal of the human suffering and bringing in the fentanyl along our border.
And recently on the show, various congressional representatives have joined me. Just in the past few weeks, I've talked with everyone from, Jamal Bowman, Nancy Mace, lots of different people on both sides of the political spectrum. And it's interesting because everyone seems to bring up different issues. You have the issues like the southern border, undoubtedly an important issues, but you also have, the cost of living, and then more social issues as well, like the overturning of Roe v. Wade, not just throughout this campaign, but should you actually be elected to serve in the Oval Office, in the White House, how is it possible to balance all of these issues that, again, undoubtedly require enough attention in order to move forward on some of them?
Well, the presidency is the biggest challenge in terms of a public office because of the diversity of our democracy, the complexity of it as well. And you really have to be able to try to bring people together. I think the most important role of a president is to lead by bringing out the best of America and do not appeal to our worst instincts. To me, that is leadership. That's what the president does. And when you try to bring out the best of people, you have a way of bringing people together. In times past, when our society has been divided, and we've been divided many times in history, we've had leaders that rose above that division and somehow brought people together. That's the kind of leadership that we need in the Oval Office to meet the challenges that we face. And that's how you start, by bringing people together.
And just before we conclude, a lot of pundits recently have been saying that people like Nikki Haley, one of your opponents in this campaign, have been hesitant, that seems to come in and really say anything that goes against Donald Trump and against some of his policy viewpoints. If you, for example, are not victorious in this GOP primary for 2024, do you see yourself being able to get behind another one of the candidates in the field, given that, a lot of Republicans have been speaking out against people like former President Trump?
Well, I expect that I'll be able to support the Republican nominee. That'll be a requirement to be on the debate stage. And I think everybody who's participating believes that they will be the nominee. But whenever you look at some of the others that are offering themselves, I could get behind them. They're good, solid Republicans. They believe in a lot of the same values that I do. We just express it a different way and have some policy disagreements. But that's what is a unifier about the Republican Party, is a common set of values. So we've got to pull together to win. It's not going to be easy in 2024. But we can do it, and it's really, really important for the future of our country.
Okay, we'll leave it there. That is the former governor of Arkansas, now GOP candidate for president, Asa Hutchinson. Thanks so much for taking the time. I appreciate it. Great chatting.
Oh, thank you. It's good to be with you.